Hello, Matthew Bell with InsurancePrescription.com, and today I want to look at the question of whether or not you can have both a 401k and an IRA. So just to give you the simplified answer right from the beginning, yes, you can have both an IRA and a 401k. And I'm going to give you actually three different circumstances in which this is the case. There could be others, but I'm going to give you three. One of them is going to be trivial, and the others are going to be a little bit more involved. So the first circumstance in which you might have both a 401k and an IRA is if you had a previous employer plan, like a 401k, from one employer, and then you roll it over into some IRA and simultaneously contribute to the 401k plan for a new employer. Now, if you have this going on, you probably know it already. You probably know that you therefore can have both a 401k and an IRA. And so the question, essentially, of whether you can have both is probably not referring in the first place to a rollover IRA. It's probably the questioner is going to be thinking about what we might call a contributory IRA, one that you're going to be funding along with an employer plan. So here, it's a little bit of a deeper question because I think the further subtext here is not just can you have both, but should you have both, and under what conditions would it be appropriate? So the first thing I want to point out is I'm not a financial planner. I can't give you financial advice. This is simply for research purposes only, for entertainment purposes only. If you need specific advice, you need to consult a professional who's in your area and who is familiar with the particulars of your case. Now, the first thing that you should understand about retirement planning is obviously there's going to be a period of time in which you save. That would be the contribution phase. And then hopefully you're putting money into a vehicle where it is accruing value, it's gaining something, it's earning something. And then in the distribution phase in retirement, you're going to be withdrawing that money and living on it, perhaps as a supplement to Social Security, perhaps a pension, rental income, some other strategy to get you where you want to be for your retirement. So the first and most obvious question is, how much do you need for retirement? I cannot answer that question for you. It's going to be one of these things you're just going to have to make projections. Some people make projections based on what they think they're going to require in terms of income. Some people try to guess about what expenses are going to be in place, but you're going to have to allow for some kinds of adjustments. First place, your healthcare costs might increase, your mortgage payment might go down or go away, you might need long-term care, you might find that travel expenses go down in your retirement. So some expenses may go up, some may go down, and you're going to have to account for this. In addition to that, cost of living, inflation are both going to impact projections, and you're going to want to factor those in as well. But once you have a kind of a provisional number for what you think you're going to require in retirement, you can kind of move backward from that number to try to determine how much you need to save. And so one way in which you can construe the question of can you have or should you have a 401k and an IRA at the same time is going to be the question of whether or not you're putting away enough for your retirement, whether or not you can put away enough in just one vehicle, or whether it requires both. So in the first place, when I say 401k, you can really hear any employer-sponsored plan. This could be a 401k, and for most people it probably is, but it could also be a 403b, a 457b, it could be a thrift savings plan or a TSP. There are any number of different options, some not so widely used, and I get into the details of these in other places. Suffice it to say that there are contribution limitations on how much you can put into an employer-sponsored plan. So in the year 2020, and this varies depending on the year, I'm recording this in February of 2020, and this year you can put $19,500 into a 401k if you are younger than 50, and if you're 50 or older, you can actually put in an additional $6,500, bringing your total contribution up to $26,000. So one way in which a person might then decide that he or she needs some kind of an IRA on top of an employer-sponsored plan is if you've realized, based on your projections, that you somehow need to be putting in more than $19,500 or more than $26,000, depending on your age. And if that's the case, you won't be able to put in more than that into your employer-sponsored plan, and so a person might opt to open an individual retirement account. Again, in 2020, the limit of contributions for an individual retirement account, regardless of the type, and we'll get into that in just a moment, regardless of the type, the limitations for contributions are going to be $6,000 if you are younger than 50, and an additional $1,000 if you're 50 or older, bringing your contribution to $7,000. So besides the case in which you have an older employer plan and you've rolled it over into an IRA, and at the same time you're contributing to your 401k, that was case number one, in which you might have a 401k and an IRA. Case number two is where you're fully funding your employer-sponsored plan, and you realize you need to put more money away for your retirement, and so you have to open an individual retirement account in addition to your employer-sponsored plan. Now, these are rough cases. I get into expense projection calculations in other places. I get into the particulars of these employer plans in other places. I've gotten into the particulars of both the traditional and the Roth IRA in other places. So I'm not going to get very deep into the weeds in terms of some of these calculations. But let me make the final comment here, the third possibility for why a person might have both a 401k and an IRA. And in this scenario, the first scenario, of course, was the rollover. The second was a contributory scenario where you simply need to put more money away than you could put away in only your employer-sponsored plan. But the third possibility for why a person might have a 401k and an IRA is in order to tax diversify their situation. And let me tell you what I mean. So with a 401k, as with a traditional IRA, those work in this way. When you contribute to those vehicles, you get a tax deduction on the money you put in. Then the money grows tax deferred, and you're taxed on 100% of the distribution at the time you take it out. Now, there are rules about when you can take it out and under what conditions, but I'm not going to get into that presently. On the other hand, there is a Roth IRA, and the Roth IRA works differently. You do not get a tax deduction on money you put into a Roth. It grows tax deferred, but then when you are taking distributions on a Roth, provided those distributions are qualified distributions, then you do not pay tax on even the gain. Even the earnings in the Roth can come out tax-free, provided that, again, they are tax-qualified distributions. So the Roth and the traditional IRA and 401k work very differently in terms of taxability. So in some cases, a person might think that it's wise to have both a 401k and, let's say, a Roth IRA. Not because they're trying to contribute more to their retirement necessarily, although they might be, but because they're trying to tax diversify their situation. Now, there's a quick and dirty kind of a way for estimating whether or not you would prefer to contribute to a pre-tax plan like a 401k or IRA, or a post-tax plan like a Roth IRA. And the quick and dirty method for doing that is to simply ask yourself, do you anticipate being in a higher tax bracket later or in a lower tax bracket later? So if you are right now in a higher bracket than you think you will be in retirement, so you think your tax bracket is going to go down, then it benefits you to not pay tax now and to defer paying tax until later. So you would favor a 401k or an IRA. On the other hand, if you think that you're in a lower tax bracket now than you will be in retirement, in other words, you think your tax bracket is likely to go up, then it would be wise to settle up your taxes now, for instance, in a Roth IRA, so that when you are in that higher bracket, you're able to remove even the earnings without having to pay tax. There is another consideration, and that is the actual tax rate that you're being charged. Even if you think that your tax bracket might be lower, if you think your effective tax rate is going to be increased, maybe because you think that tax rates are going to go up across the board, then you still might prefer to have some diversity in your tax situation. So case number 3 is where you choose to open an IRA, probably a Roth IRA or some IRA that's qualified differently from the money you're putting away in your retirement plan at work. And the reason for that is to spread your tax liability around so that not all of your money is taxed the same exact way. So just to summarize, can you have both a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA in addition to an employer-sponsored plan like a 401k? And the answer is yes. There are 3 cases that I gave in which that's the case. One case is where you have a 401k now and you have an IRA from a previous 401k that has been rolled into an IRA. Case number 2 is where you are contributing fully. You are maxing out your employer plan and you find you need to put in more money for your retirement than you're able to do just in the employer plan. And so you open an IRA in order to supplement your savings. And case number 3 is where you have an employer-sponsored plan like a 401k, but you also would like to contribute something else to a vehicle that's taxed differently than the 401k would be taxed. And that, for many people, is going to be a Roth IRA. And so a person might open both a Roth IRA and their 401k in order to spread their tax liability around. Now, I cannot comment on whether or not any of these are going to be situations that would apply to you or be a good idea for you. So once again, if you are interested in any of these ideas, I invite you to pursue these topics with trusted advisors near you. But if you found something of use in this video, I ask that you like it, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell to be alerted to new content as it becomes available. I thank you so much for being with me today, and I look forward to seeing you again in another video. Thank you.